Hey there guitar players, it's Anthony here from Cutting Edge Guitar, and in today's video I want to talk you through a subject that a lot of people ask me about all the time. It's how to practice effectively. There's a number of different ways to go about making your practice effective, but what I want to talk you through in this video is one of the ways that I went about doing this when I was a younger studying guitar player, trying to obviously get to where I wanted to be, and I highly recommend that anyone continues working in this way anyway. So when I approach playing the guitar when I'm teaching and all of that stuff, but what I wanted to get out of it myself anyway is I broke all guitar playing down basically into three key areas, which was you've got to know where things are on the fretboard, which is your fretboard knowledge, or your scales, arpeggios, all of that stuff. Then you've got to have the technical facility to be able to execute the ideas that you want to be able to play. And it doesn't matter whether you want to play blues or jazz or hard rock or whatever it is, like technique is always in the way of you, it can hinder you from playing what you want to play. So like a lot of people think when we use the word technique, they think shredding, which is, maybe like that's something that I like to do. But also, as a complete beginner guitar player, doing this, like that is a difficult skill, actually. When you're very first starting out on the guitar, basically just being able to go from playing a C chord, that just changed my angle here a little bit so I can see the guitar better. Going from playing a C chord into a D chord, well, changing from chord to chord there like that, it's technique, isn't it? We don't think of that as a technical thing, but actually it is technique. That's exactly what we're looking at in those early days. And so once you've got your fretboard knowledge down and then your technique so that you can execute your ideas, it's about musical implementation. So as a young studying guitar player, like most people, I was looking at the Leviathan abilities of Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Yngwie Malmsteen and all these people that I liked, and I was like, how on earth am I going to find the time to be able to do all of that stuff? Because it's all well and good that Steve Vai might have done his 10-hour workout, which I'm sure he did for certain periods of time when he was a young studying guitar player, but I didn't have 10 hours a day to play guitar. I think for one thing, my dad would have killed me if I was playing guitar for 10 hours a day. But how do you go about practicing effectively? There is still a way that you can go about doing this to achieve the maximum results in the smallest amount of time. So what I've put up on the screen right now is an exercise almost. It's a speed building exercise, one of the best speed building exercises that I ever saw or I ever used. Now this is effectively an exercise that you can pick, or you can play it legato using hammer-ons and pull-offs. Okay, so if I was to pick all the notes on that, play them legato. Now it's an exercise on its own that's good for basically just your technique, but you're not learning anything else. If you want to use an exercise like this to help you with your fretboard knowledge, well, this was one of the things that I thought about when I was practicing. I was like, right, I need to work on stuff like this. Let's say if I'm doing it purely as a legato idea, you want to build that up to, so like you sound like George Lynch, Paul Gilbert, those kind of guitar players. They would play those sorts of ideas in their solos. So if you want to build up to their sort of tempos, you've got to sit down and work on the exercise. But also, there is if you want to be able to play the way that those guys play, you want to be able to go, well, how do I play with the Aeolian mode or the Phrygian mode or the Dorian mode up and down the whole guitar neck? Because, that's what they can do. So I figured quite early on that I was like, right, if I take this exercise and then if I just move it vertically through the entire 3 notes per string shape, I'll be practicing my 3 notes per string shape. Now that's one of the things that a lot of people say when you start teaching them this stuff in the beginning, is that they go, I can't learn the shapes, I can't commit them to memory. Well actually, if you take that, if you move that vertically up to the next 2 strings in that 3 notes per string shape, you'd get, it's quite hard to execute because of course you've got this, you've got to come in a fret, if you know what I mean. And then obviously if you do, again that's quite hard because you've got that stretch, and then into, and then you've got. So I'm basically taking that one fragment and moving it vertically through an entire shape. I always found as well that just doing the exercise on its own was never the most inspiring way to practice an exercise. Sure, you've got to use a metronome to build up to a certain tempo, but as soon as you can play these things at speed, you want to put them into a context. So what I've done here, I've got on a backing track that I like on YouTube, A minor hard rock stuff. So now if I go back to taking this exercise as it's written and play it over that backing track, it comes out like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've just used that bend as a way of getting out of it, and then I've just looped that exercise, okay? Now if I was to start moving that vertically through the shape like I was talking about, so I'll now put that downbeat on that beat string. It's very hard to do. Now move it to the downbeats on that G string. 3, 4. I probably could have done with picking a slower back. And then so basically I've taken that exercise and I've moved it vertically from within the shape, but also if you move it horizontally or laterally or in linear motion, whatever you want to call it, it starts on an A, but I can start it on a B, so now it would come out like this. Yeah? And then start it on the C. Start it on the D. Start this on any one of the notes in the scale. So let me talk you through how I'm doing that. Just pause the backing track. What am I effectively doing? This first exercise, as it's written, we've got 5, 8, 6, 5, 6, 8. Okay, so all I'm doing is I am moving it, like the first time I moved it through a 3 notes per string shape. Now that, of course, is beneficial because it helps you learn that shape. For a lot of players, that sort of thing's easy, but there's plenty of people out there who really struggle to remember the 3 notes per string shapes. So it's really, really good for that. But also as well, what I've got here, all I'm doing is I'm moving it to the next note of the scale and then diatonically shifting. That means I'm staying in one key. I'm just shifting literally the same exercise through the notes of the scale. So all I've done really, I've taken it from this overall shape to the next shape. And then you can keep it going. So you can just start it anywhere you like. Now not only can you just start anywhere you like, but you could also do it on any string set. So you could go, I'm just taking it up through the scale. So again, let's just try that against the backing track. So, starting on this note here, it would come out as a 1, 2, 3, 4. Then move it up a position. So this is the next thing, is that after I've got that exercise under my fingers, what I'd want to then do is start looking at that musical implementation thing. So I'm like, well, people like Paul Gilbert and Georgia Lynch use that in their licks. So what I would do is I'd maybe have some basic pentatonic licks. So that's basic rock vocabulary that I've learned over time. So I'll just play that over the backing track. Now what I'd want to do is try and play that, like the lick, the exercise. then start sticking the licks around. So I'll go from the exercise into a lick, something like this. So I've just found a way to sort of stick that lick on the end, or you could go from the lick into the exercise. So like just improvising around it. But when you can start improvising around it, that is when you have able to go from taking an exercise to something you move around the fretboard, musical implementation, and in 10 minutes I've practiced my technique, my fretboard knowledge, and my musical implementation. So a highly effective way to practice. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this particular video. Do make sure that you subscribe to the channel because that helps me out massively, but it also means that you'll get a notification every time that I do a lesson like this. Also as well, if you want way more education than I could ever possibly put on YouTube, Cutting Edge Guitar, all the links are in the bio, in my YouTube bio. Go over there and check out everything that I'm doing over at the site. The #1 place to get really in-depth education is the Cutting Edge Guitar Mastery Club. So I would love to see you over there, and I'll see you again on YouTube sometime soon. Take care.